Construction of sports skill tests. Step 1. Determining the purpose and format. Here the physical educator satisfies himself that why a new test is required, i.e., what is the specific purpose of constructing a new sport skill test or to modify the existing test. The new test may be needed due to the absence of any published test that meets the specific needs of the required test. Depending upon the specific purposes of the test, the investigator will decide about the format of the test. The test format will be based on formative or summative evaluation, norm-referenced or criterion-referenced testing. For instance, the sport skill test may be needed for comparing individual performances with those of other similar individual tested, or it may be needed for examination the attainment of predetermined level of a sport skill such as ability to run 100 meters in 10.5 seconds or ability to achieve standing broad jump of 350 centimeters, etc. In the first case where comparisons have to be made, one has to follow norm-referenced format, whereas in the second case criterion-referenced format is to be followed. Step 2. Reviewing criteria. This step is common and most important to all types of tests construction. Here the investigator reviews questions like what is a good criteria to be used for the construction of a new test? What will constitute an appropriate skill test? What should be the required level of validity, reliability, objectivity, and accuracy? What should be that ability range of students? What will be the requirement of test in the form of equipment norms, personnel, space, preparation time, and administration time? Further, the skill tests are to be specific to age, sex, skill level, strength and other such variables of the subjects to be measured. The review of criteria should also examine the educational value of the sport skill test to be constructed. The test is to be relevant to the units of sport skill taught. Such a review is very useful in the construction of an appropriate sport skill test. Step 3. Analyzing sport to be tested. This is another important step in the construction and selection of an appropriate sport skill test. In this step the investigator analyzes the sport to be tested by enlisting and describing the skills necessary to play the concerned sport with proficiency. For example, basketball analysis shows that this game involves dribbling, shooting jump shots, free throws, and layups, rebounding chest, bounce and baseball passes, and defense. After doing so, the investigator has to decide which of these skills may be tested accurately. For this he has to review the existing literature. Step 4. Reviewing literature. A thorough review of relevant literature enables the investigator to know about the availability of any existing sport skill test that may measure the same skills which are considered appropriate by the investigator. It is always easier to review literature in the light of specific requirement, therefore, the test constructor should clearly enlist the appropriate skills selected by analyzing the sport under consideration. It is quite possible that the review of literature may provide a valid, reliable, and feasible required skill test. When the investigator is unable to locate a suitable test from literature, he will have to construct his own skill test items that could measure all the skills of the concerned sport as analyzed by him. Step 5. Selecting test items. The selection of test items is one of the most important steps of test construction. Some of the guidelines for the selection of good test items in a sport skill test construction are given below. As far as possible, the test items should represent the actual game skills. In order to achieve high level of reliability and validity, one should construct such test items that are quite simple to understand and very easy to perform. Test items should be in line with the purpose of testing and in agreement to the requirement of criterion-referenced and norm-referenced evaluation. Test items should be less time-consuming, easy to administer and least expensive, requiring minimal facilities and equipment. Simulated game conditions may be tested through any one of the types of test items: time tests, distance tests, accuracy tests, power tests, body movement test and form tests, etc. Step 6. Acquiring facilities and equipments. While proceeding for actual development of test items, one has to first enlist all the required equipments and facilities. The test constructor has then to find out the sources of best possible equipments and facilities and proceed to acquire all of them. In addition, requirements with respect to personnel needed for various test items should also be worked out accurately so as to train them properly with procedures. Step 7. Establishing procedures. In this step, the test constructor works out each test item's detailed procedures and protocols with respect to layout, performance instructions, administration techniques, and scoring criteria, etc. It is better and often more practicable to be very particular about trial and error method while attempting to establish the test procedures. Thus, revision and adaptation are inevitable and quite helpful in clarifying and improving the test. Step 8. Conducting a pilot study. All the test items are applied on a small group of individuals available and any problems faced during testing. The results of this pilot study are analyzed and evaluated as to whether the purpose and goals of the study are achieved. The test items and procedures are revised, modified, or altered as per the needs so as to remove the identified problems and any shortcomings in achieving the goal of the test construction. Step 9. Administration of the revised test items. The revised test items after completing the pilot study, are applied to the sample of target population for final evaluation. About 30 to 100 subjects should be tested for each test item so as to include enough subjects of all levels of fitness, i.e. below average, average and above ability levels. Step 10. Validity, reliability, and objectivity testing. The validity, reliability, and objectivity of each test item is evaluated. Necessary steps are taken to increase the levels of validity, reliability, and Step 11. Developing norms and standards. If the test is being constructed for norm-based reference, the norms are developed in the form of centiles, etc. for the local population groups as per the standard statistical methods. In case the test construction is for criterion-based standard, then the standards in the form of fail-pass or for the classification of subjects into more than two categories, fail-pass, are to be developed. For developing norms, more than 200 individuals are to be tested for representing all varieties of a particular age group of a population or a particular subpopulation group. Step 12. Test manual. Since the constructed test is likely to be used by many physical educationists and sports coaches, etc., other than the developer of the test. Therefore, it is very important to develop a test manual containing thorough details of the test, purpose, goals, specifications of equipments, procedures, rules, instructions, precautions, evaluation criteria, and guidelines for the users. The test manual will help the future user to decide whether this test is to be adopted by him/his or he/she should search for some other appropriate test to achieve his/her aim. Step 13. Evaluating and updating the test. The test is evaluated with the help of checklist containing almost all the steps of test construction/selection described above. If the tester seems unsatisfied after reviewing the answer checklist with respect to some of the questions included in the checklist, then, it is desirable that the test is modified to the extent that the answers to the identified questions become satisfactory. References. 1. Yobu, A. 2010. Test, Measurement, and Evaluation in Physical Education and Sports. Friends Publications, New Delhi. 2. Cancel, D.K., 2008. Textbook of Applied Measurement Evaluation and Sports Selection. Sports and Spiritual Science Publication, New Delhi.